All right, class, welcome back. It's the last day of The Boy Who Dared. Here we go. Later, the black Mercedes carrying Helmet threads through the Hammerbrook streets. Helmet prays Oma isn't home so that she won't see his bruised face, but she is home. And she cries out and rushes to him, reaching for him. Helmet, what have you done? Wangman thrusts out his hand, stops her, and says, "Official Gestapo business. We're looking for enemy propaganda." "Enemy propaganda," says Oma. "We don't have any." Opa guides Oma to the sofa, saying, "Quiet, dear. Let them look. They'll see they're mistaken. All this is a terrible mistake." Oma clutches her apron, wrings it, weeps loudly. Opa draws her to him, a stricken look on his face, and Helmet can't watch anymore. He points to the closet, his bedroom, says everything can be found there. But the two agents ransack the apartment anyway. Oma whispers as the empty drawers lift mattresses, peeling wallpaper for secret hideaways. In the end, they find all the incriminating evidence just where Helmet said. The roller radio, a pile of assorted leaflets, notebooks, manuscripts of handbills, shorthand notes, and the Remington typewriter with 7 carbon sheets of paper stuck between the cartridge rollers. "Such interesting reading," says Mooster sarcastically, leaning over the typewriter. "It says, 'Who is inciting whom?'" He reads a section out loud. "All accusations against the American government lack any truthful bias. They are fabricated, malicious, and remain symptoms of the deepest hatred." Wangman glares ape-like at Helmet. "So you think the Fuhrer is a liar?" Helmet wants to shout out, "Yes! He is a liar!" But instead he clamps his mouth shut, steels himself, prays Wangman won't hit him. Not here, not in front of his grandmother. "You disgusting piece of trash," says Wangman. He pushes Helmet out the door, out to the street. Oma wails behind him as he ducks into the car. He looks up, sees her glistening face in the window. 8 p.m., a green prisoner van transports Helmet to concentration camp Futenspul, to the north of Hamburg. A guard takes his trousers, his shirt, his shoelaces, and hands him a pair of blue prison pants and a shirt, leads him to the holding cell. Helmet looks around the putrid cell, an overflowing slop bucket in the corner, a cot with no mattress, just boards, a single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Somewhere, he hears a scream and sobs. He sits on the bed, swings his legs over the edge of the cot, lies down. He folds his arm across his chest for warmth, closes his eyes, tells himself the worst is over. He's confessed. He kept his promise to Rudy and Carl. Tears swell and then come in heaves of relief. Flash forward. Helmet sits in the floor beneath the window in the square of sunlight. He can barely breathe when he thinks what lies ahead. He focuses his mind, doesn't want to be numb, wants to think, to feel. He listens to the sounds of prison. From the hall, a metallic clattering sound. Doors opening, doors closing. From another cell, sobs. From a passing guard, footfalls. From the prison yard, the tramp of feet. From the city, sirens. The square of sunshine moves, diffuses, grows faint yellow. Helmet feels lost in a dream. Carl and Rudy enter the dream. Their faces float in front of him, then fade out and enter again. First one, then the other, then the 3 of them together. Flashback. Morning. The slot opens, a cup of brown liquid and a hunk of dry bread. Helmet gulps the liquid, gobbles the bread. He can no longer avoid the overflowing slop bucket. Later, footsteps outside the cell door. Helmet stands in anticipation. The slot opens again. Eyes meet his. The slot slams shut. A key turns in the lock. A rasping, grating sound. Metal against metal. The door swings open. A guard looms in the open door. "Out!" he says, motioning with the rubber truncheon. "Back to the police headquarters with you." Helmet falters, "But I've already confessed." The guard's mouth tightens. Wham! His truncheon strikes Helmet in the stomach. So fast he doesn't see it coming. It doubles him over, knocks the wind out of him. Helmet groans, clutches his belly. The sour taste of vomit. He swallows it down. "Guess you didn't tell them enough," says the guard. "Hands on head." He stabs to stand up straight. Helmet claps his hands on top of his head, walks, elbows sticking out like wings. He plods down the corridor, outside to the transport van. Gestapo headquarters. Helmut awaits his turn for interrogation in a room, painted a brilliant, dazzling white and brightly lit with large lights. It's called the Hall of Mirrors, a Nazi joke, Helmut supposes, because there are no mirrors. All around, blue-clad prisoners stand at attention, noses 1 inch from the white wall, never moving, never flinching. 1 hour, 2, more. Helmut's legs ache. His stomach burns. He feels faint. His mouth is dry. Needs the toilet. Worries he cannot hold it. Doesn't want to think about the trouble that would cause. His name is called. The Gestapo interrogation room has a concrete floor, round metal drains, a hose looped in the corner, dark splatters, dried blood across the whitewashed walls, a lingering scent of disinfectant. In the center, a wooden table and 2 wooden chairs. "We know you didn't work alone," says Wangman, trapping his trunk in against his palm. "But I did," says Helmut. This time, Helmut expects the blows, the kicks, the grind of boots. The transport van carries him back to Flutensbettel, where the guard clamps his hands and feet in metal bands, cuffs the bands to the bed. "For stubborn ones," says the guard. "You're a tough one. Most crack within 24 hours. Maybe you'll give better answers tomorrow." Helmut lies spread-eagled on the boards, his face, back, shoulders, buttocks, legs. They burn, burn, burn. He prays not for deliverance, but for strength. He will not crack, must hold out. No names. Another interrogation. Helmut grasps for air. Each breath burns. His whole body feels on fire. He cannot hold out any longer, cannot stop himself. He croaks, "Karl Hannen, Schnibby, Ruby, Woby." Helmut sits on the edge of the cot, head in hands, and sobs. Huge, racking sobs. He hates himself for what he's done. If only he had held out. If only they had killed him. Helmut wishes he could kill himself, but how? He has no shoelaces, no sheet. He lies on a cot, stares at the ceiling, holds his breath, gasps, and gives up. Clutches his throat, squeezes hard, gasps again, tries again, harder. No use. Then he realizes he can't die. He mustn't die. He must live. Live to take the blame. Live to save Karl and Rudy. The SS sit at a large table in the middle of the room, talking, laughing, and shuffling papers. Helmut turns to the guard, or tunes out the guards, narrows his eyes to slits, blocks the dazzling wall, stands nose 1 inch from the wall. Nothing phases him, nothing detracts him. He knows what he must do. The Gestapo are precise, methodical. The Gestapo don't make mistakes. Neither will Helmut. He has learned to do the waiting right, not to concentrate too hard, not to faint, not to attract attention, knows the terrible blows and kicking that fainting brings, knows not to drink anything in the morning, no matter how thirsty, because at the Hall of Mirrors, prisoners aren't allowed to use the toilet. And when it's his turn for interrogation, he will stick to his story, take all the blame for the radio and the leaflets, convince the Gestapo that Karl and Rudy were just curious onlookers, that Karl and Rudy are not traitors, that the leaflet campaign was all his idea. The Gestapo are precise, methodical. The Gestapo don't make mistakes. Neither will Helmut. He will do it right. If only he could warn Karl and Rudy. He squeezes his eyes shut and prays. Suddenly, the door opens and another prisoner is brought into the Hall of Mirrors. Out of the corner of his swollen eye, Helmut sees Karl. The Gestapo have made a mistake. Helmut nearly makes a mistake too. He nearly calls out to Karl. It takes all his strength to swallow the words in his throat. His throat tightens, swollen thick with words. Karl spots him too, and a stricken look crosses his face. "Keep walking, keep walking, keep walking, keep walking," wills Helmut. And Karl does. 10 steps, 6 steps, 3 steps from Helmut. And then, at that moment, the precise moment, their eyes lock. Helmut twitches the left side of his mouth. The slightest smile, winks his left eye, not enough to attract the guard's attention, just enough to signal Karl. Karl blinks, hesitates, and then a flicker of understanding passes over his face. Helmut swallows hard, gulps down a sob. He's sure that Karl understands, sure that Karl knows that Helmut had taken the blame. Sure, Karl understands not to say anything that will implicate himself more during his investigation. Helmut blinks back tears, wishes he could warn Rudy, wishes he could save them both from interrogation, wishes he could tell them he tried to hold out, wishes he could ask for their forgiveness. But there's no way to warn Rudy, and Helmut does not see him or Karl or Duer again until the trial 6 months later at the People's Court in Berlin. The infamous Blood Tribunal, the highest, most feared court in Germany. 6 p.m., a prison guard brings Helmut paper, a fountain pen, blue ink for his final letters. The paper, the pen, the ink, they are sweeter than Moody's plum kuchen. Helmut pulls up his stool to the scratchy table, spreads out the first sheet of paper, smooths it with his hands. He knuckles away tears. What will he tell his family? That he was foolish to think he could wage a battle against such evil? No. Helmut does not believe he was foolish. He will not risk his life in vain. God can bring good out of evil, but God can't do it alone. God needs people. People who will stand up. People who will dare to speak out. For what has a man profited if he has gained the whole world and lost his soul? That's what the Bible says. Helmut feels something. His chest swells. A warm calmness fills him, and he knows that he has lived a life that stood for something. August 4, 1942, Helmut leaves for Berlin. A guard handcuffs him, leads him to a green prisoner transport van. Helmut climbs inside. His heart leaps as he sees Karl and Rudy sitting there. Gerhard Duer, too. Each boy is handcuffed to a guard, and so all Helmut can do is smile, and smile he does. They all grin at one another, all except Duer, who casts his eyes down and stares at his hands folded in his lap. He cannot look Helmut in the eye, but Helmut waits for Duer to look at him, wills Duer to look at him, and when he does, Helmut nods and smiles. A mixture of shame and relief crosses Duer's face. "I'm sorry," he mouths, his eyes pained. "Me too," says Helmut with a nod. "Me too." The boys ride in silence. At the Altona train station, the guards herd them into a special train compartment marked Prisoner Transport, Entry Verboten. Once inside, the guards uncuff the boys. Rudy's guard says, "If I were the judge, I would give you boys a good thrashing, put you in uniform, and ship you to the front. Let the punishment fit the crime. That's what I say." Karl's guard nods, agrees, and then points the boys to a bench seat. "Sit. You may talk, but I'm warning you, do not stand up, and not one word about your case." The guards sit across from the 4 boys, take out a deck of playing cards. Helmut looks at Rudy and Karl. Hot tears flood his eyes. "I'm sorry," he whispers to them. "I tried to hold out." The guard shoots a warning look. "Not one word about your case," he says firmly. Helmut falls quiet. Karl cups his hand over Helmut, squeezes, and so does Rudy. The 3 friends sit there for the longest while, one hand atop another. It is Karl who breaks the silence. "Remember when I brought the false teeth to church?" he says. Helmut remembers and he laughs. For the rest of the trip, the boys swap stories. Mobat Prison, Berlin. Helmut meets his court-appointed lawyer, Herr Dr. Ney. He's a nervous man wearing a crooked red bow tie and a Nazi party pin on his lapel. He spends a short time rifling through papers, asking simple questions, but not taking any notes. Helmut's heart sinks. His lawyer does not work for him. He works for the Nazi government. Nighttime, another sleepless night. Helmut goes over the terrible interrogations again and again, turning each over in his head, wants to be able to recall each detail so that he's consistent in his answers. August 11, 1942, the People's Court. The 4 boys are hustled into the courtroom. Helmut wears the same clothes he wore the day of his arrest 7 months ago. His trousers hang loosely. His white-collared shirt flutters about, so thin he has grown. It is the same with his friends, but they have been permitted to shower with real soap, so they look scrubbed. The courtroom has dark oak floors, dark wood-paneled walls. 3 blood-red swastika black banners hang from the ceiling to the wall, or the ceiling to the floor. A large portrait of Adolf Hitler, and it's packed with spectators, mostly reporters. Murmurs ripple over the room as the boys enter. A guard uncuffs Karl, Rudy, and Gerhard, but Helmut is left cuffed, his hands chained behind his back. That tells Helmut something, that the justices have already decided he is the most important criminal, that he has committed a most serious offense. He feels nauseous. The more serious the judges consider the offense, the less likely that Helmut will be tried as a juvenile. Helmut looks around the crowded room, spots Herr Dr. Ney, Gestapo agent Musner, Heinrich Mons, his boss from the Beaver House wearing his Nazi party uniform, Werner Kranz, the apprentice, Werner looks pained, as if dragged there by the scruff of his neck. Herr Schnibby, Karl's father, no Moody, no Oma, no Opa. Helmut is relieved. He couldn't bear to see their anguished faces. At 10 o'clock, the tall wooden doors swing open and the courtroom falls quiet. At once, everyone rises as 7 justices enter. 3 wear blood-red caps, the flowing red robes, and a large golden eagle emblazoned on the front. The others wear stiffly pressed SS and military uniforms. There is no jury. The justices are the jury. The trial opens with a slam of the gavel and rings throughout the courtroom. One of the red-robed justices, Justice Ingbert, asks the boys simple questions, names, birth date, residence, occupation, and then reviews the charges against each boy. Deliberate listening to foreign radio stations, willfully distributing newscasts of foreign radio stations, conspiracy to commit high treason. Chief Justice Ficus takes over, barking out question after question, testing each boy's knowledge about Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. Wobi, what is the Führer's birthday? Schnibby, what are the words to the Horst Wessel? Duer, how many points in the Nazi program? Helmut gets the hardest questions. Hübner, what are the political aims for the Nazi Party? He answers each question sharply. Witnesses are called. Werner Kranz and Heinrich Mons recount the events of January 20 when Herr Mons caught Helmut trying to press a leaflet into Werner's hands. Gestapo agent Musner details each interrogation word by word from his notes, saying things like, after lengthy remonstrations and after empathetic admonishments, Hübner was moved to make a confession about the extent of the destructive activity. Helmut grunts at the words. That's what the Gestapo called beatings and torture, remonstrations and admonishments. The justices don't miss a detail from the boys' lives, their party record books, their school records, their Hitler Youth records, even Rudy's Lord Lister detective cards become evidence against them. Soon the questioning turns to the boys' crime. Justice Ficus rehashes the same questions the boys had answered under interrogation, but there's a different edge to his questions now. Helmut concentrates, tries to put his finger on the shift. Slowly it dawns on Helmut. Ficus is questioning them as adults. They are all being tried as adults, not juveniles. Hot fear spreads through Helmut. An adult conviction means much worse. A longer prison sentence, or possibly the death sentence. He can't let that happen. Helmut focuses, clears his mind. He knows what he must do. He must keep the attention of the justices. He must convince them that he was the ringleader, that Karl and Rudy and Duer were simply followers, no matter what. It's Helmut's turn. Chief Justice Ficus takes out the pamphlets and flyers and clears the courtroom to protect the spectators from the enemy propaganda. The sight of the pamphlets and flyers enrages the judge. Why did you write these? He barks at Helmut. To let the people know the truth, answers Helmut in a loud, clear voice. The other justices fall deathly silent. He can feel Karl, Rudy, and Duer stiffen next to him, but Helmut knows what he's doing. There's no other way. Do you really believe that the British are telling the truth? Says Ficus. Absolutely. Don't you? Ficus's face grows purple with rage. Do you doubt Germany's ultimate victory? Do you actually believe that Germany can win the war? Justice Ficus is screaming now. Are you suggesting that your leaders are lying? Helmut takes a deep breath, and in the most contemptible manner he can muster, he says, Jawohl, ihr Glück. Yes, you are all liars. Pandemonium breaks out among the justices. Helmut's attorney snaps back, scowls at Helmut, who's as if to say, are you crazy? Helmut's insolent launches Judge Ficus to his feet. He leans over the bench, purple with rage. You snot-nosed kid! What do you know about war? You are scum, a traitor! He snaps the file shut, addresses Helmut's attorney. Is there anything else you would like to say? Herr Dr. Nye argues that Helmut succumbed to the enemy propaganda because he was too immature to resist the temptation. I ask the court to be lenient in consideration of his age, says the attorney. That's enough! Ficus glares at Helmut. Hübner is no average boy. He brings another paper out of the folder. Helmut recognizes the paper. It's his graduation essay, The War of the Pluricats. Ficus rattles the essay at Helmut's attorney. This is the work of a person far above 18 years. This is no immature youth. The people must be protected from traitors like him. The fatherland is at stake. He replaces the essay, clamps the folder shut, slams his fist down on top. This defendant acted with the thought and cunning of an adult. Consequently, he is to be sentenced as an adult. Without exception, this precocious young man has long since outgrown his youth. Justice Ficus beckons to the two other justices. They hover behind the bench before drawing back to their chairs. "We are ready for sentencing," says Ficus. The courtroom doors swing open and the spectators fill the seats. Helmut's heart pounds against his ribcage as Justice Ficus begins. The court orders the following to be sentenced. He says in a smug, satisfied voice, "Hübner, for listening to a foreign radio station and distributing the news heard in connection with conspiracy, act to commit high treason and treasonable support of the enemy, to death and the loss of his civil rights during his lifetime." All around Hübner, the courtroom, the justices, the swastika banners explode. Red, white, yellow, blue streak his eyes. His knees buckle. The guard yanks him to his feet. He hears Ficus pronounce, "Wolby, conspiracy to commit high treason, 10 years imprisonment. Schnibby, 5 years imprisonment. Duer, 4 years imprisonment. The defendants are to bear the costs of the proceedings." "Have you anything to say?" said Ficus. "Duer, no. Schnibby, no. Wolby, no. Hübner?" Helmut struggles to regain his thoughts, to bring the pieces together. He points a finger at the justices. "All I did was tell the truth, and you have sentenced me to die just for telling the truth. My time is now, but your time will come." The courtroom erupts in a roar. "Shut up!" screams Justice Ficus. "Push him down! Shut him up!" His gavel slams again and again. The guards leap upon Helmut, force him to his seat. His heart slams against his rib cage. He gulps for air. He did the right thing. He knows he did. Otherwise, the justices would have executed them all. The trial is over. The boys are shackled and led to a small holding cell in the basement. A guard removes the handcuffs from Carl, Rudy, and Duer, but leaves Helmut shackled. "Helmut," cries Rudy, "why did you do that?" "Because it's the truth," said Helmut. He feels his eyes well with tear as he blinks them away. "I did the right thing. I have no regrets." "They will reduce or cancel the verdict," says Carl. "You're too young." "No," says Helmut. "They will make an example out of me." The guard returns. "Wolby, Schnibby, Duer, get ready to go. You're going back to Hamburg." The boys surround Helmut, embrace him tightly. "We'll meet again," says Carl. "Goodbye, my friends," says Helmut. "We will meet again." Present day. Helmut huffs the ink dry on his last letter. It is 8:05 p.m. He reads it again, wonders what his family will think, wonders who will tell Moody. He feels sad for Moody. He knows his death will be hard on her. For Oma and Opa too, and Hans and Gerhard. He hopes his letters comfort them, bring them solace. The brisk pound of feet, the jangle of keys, the scrape of metal on metal. Helmut stands, ready. He has made up his mind to go quietly, with dignity and courage. The door swings open. 2 guards enter. "Prisoner Hübner, come with us," says one. "It is time." The other shackles Helmut's hands behind his back. Helmut walks without stumbling down the long corridor outside into the courtyard. He draws in the crisp night air. It feels good. It feels like Moody's sheets on wash day. Above the tall red brick execution shed, between the leafless tree branches, the moon is full, opalescent, and he remembers a night long ago. Moody tucking them in, 3 brothers, 3 dark heads nestled against white pillows, white moonlight shimmering the walls, and Helmut is floating. The end. The Boy Who Dared. See you guys.